A late Wednesday decision by a U.S. federal court challenging President Donald Trump's authority to impose broad tariffs could mark a serious setback to the president's wider economic strategy. Central to Trump's economic plan are his hallmark tariffs, though the administration has always promoted its approach as a three-part formula. The strategy hinges on tariffs, reduced government spending, and tax cuts, all of which are considered essential to keeping the overall plan stable. However, a panel of 3 judges on the U.S. Court of International Trade has blocked Trump's global tariffs, which were introduced under emergency economic powers. These measures include the so-called Liberation Day tariffs, a blanket 10% tariff, and specific duties intended to stop the flow of fentanyl into the country. One part of the economic strategy is now compromised, at least temporarily. The court stated that alternative, though less ideal, tools are still available to implement tariffs. Multiple White House officials confirmed those options are being reviewed and are expected to be deployed soon. The administration has filed an appeal and intends to take the case to the Supreme Court if needed, while simultaneously seeking an emergency stay. Despite the court's decision, there is little indication that the administration will shift direction. According to insiders, Trump is likely to intensify trade efforts through legal channels and alternative measures. The courts have consistently been a hurdle, and we haven't backed off from anything yet, one official commented. Still, the court's ruling raises major doubts about the viability of Trump's wide-ranging tariff policy. That uncertainty could jeopardize the administration's broader economic vision. Trump's tariffs have encouraged many foreign governments to enter into trade talks. These negotiations, in principle, could open international markets to American products, creating new opportunities for U.S. businesses and agriculture. White House staff voiced concern over how the ruling might affect ongoing negotiations, including 2 potential deals that officials say were nearing finalization. Calls were made to international counterparts Wednesday night to convey that talks should proceed as planned and that urgency remains high. Nonetheless, global partners may pause to better understand the situation before continuing. They clearly want to maintain momentum, but there's every reason for others to stop and reassess what's going on, said a diplomat involved in ongoing talks. A former senior administration official described the timing and impact of the decision more bluntly. This completely disrupts their strategy at the worst possible moment, the official said. Revenue from Trump's tariffs could be used, at least partially, to fund the president's and Republicans' substantial tax cuts. These tax changes are intended to stimulate economic growth and provide reassurance to financial markets by helping to address the debt ceiling. Additionally, deregulation and spending cuts, especially through the Department of Government Efficiency, could reduce federal costs and offset some of the tax cuts' impact on the growing national debt. Due to its delicate framework, the Trump administration's push for a new economic era has drawn skepticism, especially from mainstream economists. Critics argue the administration may lack the consistency, authority, and political backing to succeed. The unpredictable trade policies, legal disputes over agency powers, and internal conflicts over major legislation only strengthen those concerns. Elon Musk, one of President Trump's most prominent financial supporters and once the public face of the administration's cost reduction task force, spoke out against the latest legislation this week. He argued that the bill's massive contribution to the national debt seriously undercut the group's broader efforts to control spending. With the tariff piece of Trump's economic plan now in question, fiscally conservative Republicans in Congress might hesitate to support his proposed tax cuts. Many were already deeply uneasy about the bill's nearly $4 trillion cost, which includes approximately $1 trillion in unpopular cuts to Medicaid. Estimates indicated that increased revenue from tariffs, around $150 billion annually, might have helped counterbalance part of the deficit resulting from the current fiscal plan. Now, with the legal future of those tariffs uncertain, Trump and GOP leaders could be forced to scale back tax reductions or seek deeper spending cuts to move the House-approved legislation forward through the Senate's reconciliation process. Supporters of the trade policy had previously justified it not only as a tool for addressing the U.S. trade deficit, but also as a means of generating added revenue for the federal government. Without it, the ongoing national debt sustainability debate is likely to intensify. At this stage, there are more open questions than clear answers. Observers are asking how the administration will respond and whether the legal setbacks will impact the tax bill currently advancing through Congress. The White House remains publicly confident. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said Wednesday that the administration is so sure it will win the appeal that it has not yet pursued backup plans. But he also confirmed that options are available if needed. There are 3 or 4 alternate strategies we could deploy, he said. Each would take a couple of months to fully implement, but they rely on procedures that have already been used in the past. One likely workaround involves Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, which was not affected by the recent court decision. President Trump has already imposed 25% tariffs on steel, aluminum vehicles, and auto parts using that authority. Additional tariffs targeting lumber, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors have also been considered under the same provision. The Trump administration still has several legal avenues for imposing tariffs, including under Sections 1, 22, and 301 of the Trade Expansion Act. These alternatives, however, are narrower in scope than the emergency powers previously used, which Wednesday's court decision declared were applied unlawfully to enforce broad tariffs on nearly all imported goods. According to economic analysts, President Trump could fairly easily reintroduce a 10% general tariff under his authority from Section 122. This method requires no formal investigation, allowing for rapid implementation. However, it is only valid for a maximum of 150 days. Section 301 offers another path, enabling the president to investigate trade practices and impose tariffs afterward. But this option typically takes longer to execute due to the procedural steps involved. Regardless of the final legal outcome, attention is expected to shift toward trade measures enacted through existing laws like Sections 232 and 301. While these provisions demand more thorough investigations, they ultimately give the president the power to act independently in setting trade restrictions. As the administration recalibrates its approach and pushes its appeal through the courts, possibly reaching the Supreme Court, the latest ruling may weaken Trump's leverage in finalizing trade deals with global partners. So far, few concrete agreements have materialized, even with just over a month left in the 3-month pause of Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs. The White House has only presented deal frameworks with the United Kingdom and China. Some analysts believe the lack of progress may stem from foreign governments anticipating this legal challenge. Now, the question is whether those countries will wait for the courts to settle the matter or resume talks with the U.S. directly. The setback may only be short-term, but for American businesses, the decision adds a fresh layer of uncertainty, especially while the administration pursues its legal appeal. Rather than bringing clarity, the ruling has intensified confusion for both businesses and consumers, as it suggests the possibility that tariffs might be lifted altogether. Still, should that occur, the administration could respond by reinstating tariffs through other legal mechanisms. The future of trade policy now appears even more unpredictable, whether moving toward fewer tariffs or increasing them through alternative strategies. Throughout this administration's tenure, the one constant in trade policy has been unpredictability. President Trump has consistently kept international trading partners guessing with rapid shifts in approach and legal maneuvering. This isn't the end, said one senior economist. If anything, the whole situation feels like a game of whack-a-mole. Just when you think one piece is resolved, another pops up,